Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, good morning, namaskar, assalamu alaikum. I'm really, really happy to be here with you. And I would like to thank for the kind invitation, which makes me really happy. So, another thing that could have been added to my biography is the fact that I co-run a research group which is called Marginalities. So the topic of the conference is really, really consistent with what I study. But since the focus is India, I decided to concentrate on a novel published by an Indian diasporic writer, Sohaila Abdulali. And in this novel, there is this idea of marginalization of tribal people, but also marginalization of nature. So the story connects women and ecology and a tribal woman who gives the title to the story, which is The Madwoman of Jogare. And the author is Soleila Abdulali. So I will try to focus on the concept of precarity, of living in a precarious world in this text. But first of all, I would like to give you an introduction of this writer who now lives in the States. But she was born in present-day Mumbai, and she moved to the States in her late teens, and she furthered her education there at Brandeis University. She got a BA in economics and sociology. And then she went to Stanford University, where she received an MA in communication. So she has a mixed background. She's also a freelance writer and an editor. She's the author of 2 novels, several children's books. So this is interesting because by writing for children, she wanted to educate the next generations. She's also the author of short stories, nonfiction pieces, starting from an article that she published in 1983 entitled I Fought for My Life and Won. And this article is focused on a really traumatic experience that she had, an experience of rape, collective gang rape, which occurred just outside Bombay. It was called Bombay in those days, so when she was 17. So in this account of the brutal assault published in Manushi, an Indian journal devoted to gender studies and feminist activism, Abdulali questioned the patriarchal ideal of female honor and purity. To be preserved even at the cost of one's life. This was the frame of mind in those days, while denouncing the oppression of silenced and shamed and marginalized women who were often regarded, and I quote, the property of men. So, talking about the novel was mainly composed in Maharashtra, where Abdulali regularly returns to her parents' house. And this debut novel was published in 1998 and immediately shortlisted for the Crossword Book Prize. As Gurpreet Kaur has observed, the narrative reflects the economic climate of India in the 1990s, characterized by private and foreign investments or exploitation, as we could also call it, which on the one hand laid the foundation for India as one of the fastest growing economies in the world, but on the other hand contributed to increasing marginalization, social inequalities, widen the gap between the privileged elite and the deprived masses. It also disseminated a consumeristic ethic while altering the ecological balance, which was severely affected by industrialization and rapid unplanned urbanization fostered by the Western investments. What is more, in 1998, the same year in which the volume was released, India conducted a series of 5 nuclear bomb tests in Rajasthan, the same location of the first nuclear test performed in the country in 1978. So ecological concerns are very much present in Sohaila Abdullah's text. I would like to quote now, to frame my analysis, an Indian English fiction and ecofeminist writer, Priyanda Chanda, who has placed a strong emphasis on the outstanding history of women-led environmental activism in the Indian subcontinent. And we have to learn, in the West, we have to learn a lot from that. She quotes the Chipko movement, a non-violent agitation which took place, as you for sure are well aware of, in Uttar Pradesh in 1973, and inspired by similar protest initiated by the Bishnoi community in Rajasthan in the 18th century. So village women decided to fight massive deforestation. So marginalized women, marginalized in society, decided to protect the environment, which was marginalized in those days. So the deforestation was also responsible for floods and landslides, and they physically embraced nature. So in this symbolic gesture of protection, they shielded the trees, the tree trunks with their own bodies. So there is this very interesting fusion between nature and the woman's body. It is interesting and sad that these women have not been included in the environmental literary canon worldwide, with the notable exceptions of Anita Desai and Arundhati Roy, but there are very few women who are included, Indian women, Indian writers and Indian activists that have been included in this environmental canon. Their text often connecting environmental concerns with challenging observations on the subordinate and marginalized position of women in society in patriarchal context, not just in India, but also in Italy, for example. They have frequently acted as sites of resistance to dominant discourses and practices, while providing an alternative platform to promote social reform and political change. And the Madwoman of Jogare, the text I decided to focus on, can be profitably analyzed from this eco-feminist perspective. So I will give you, first of all, another little bit of a theory. So Noel Sturgeon views ecofeminism as a way to articulate a theory according to which ideologies that authorize injustice based on gender, race, and class are related to ideologies that sanction the exploitation, the degradation of the environment. So accordingly, as this paper of mine sets out to elucidate, Abduli confronts readers with the dramatic clash between urban and rural values. The former are rooted in the androcentric thought process that dominates our life, which defines society, cross-gender interaction, and our relationship with nature, which is normally treated as commodity, ready to be exploited, in hierarchical, dualistic terms. On the contrary, rural values, the values of marginalized people, foster a holistic and biocentric approach to life, which is based on Donna Haraway's concept of interconnectedness across species and the interdependence of all living creatures, which are perceived as equal. So needless to say, through the narrative, Sohaila Abdullahi endorses this nurturing, woman-centered vision, which proves essential to foster and to secure sustainable development, fairness, and peace. So I will give you a little bit of I will summarize the story. You may not be familiar with it. The story is set in Maharashtra, and the plot is focused on two families which embody different values and clashing values. We have the Shepkalis, who own 20 acres of fertile ground where a variety of fruit trees, orchids are grown. And then there are the Prutis, who run a construction business in Bombay. Because it's set back in the 70s and the 80s. So problems arise when persuaded by an avid and unprincipled character. Satish Pruti takes advantage of his long friendship with Shepkali, who is a prominent figure in the area, to obtain the necessary permissions to buy a large plot of agricultural land. What the Shepkalis ignore is that this man is planning to remove all the trees in his newly acquired property. He wants to build a luxury tourist resort for Western people. So the novel reaches its climax when there is a double tragedy. The untimely demise of the head of the Shepkalis family and his wife, who are crushed by one of the construction lorries of the other family, and the death by starvation of this Madwoman of Jogare, who was a tribal villager whose dance announced the break of the monsoon. So she's connected with the natural cycle. All the same, Sohaila Abdulali concludes her story with a good and auspicious ending. Ifrat, the only survival of the Shepkalis family, manages to withstand the pressure to sell her parents' land, and therefore eventually resolves to continue her life in the valley. And moreover, there is a young tribal girl who replaces the Madwoman of Jogare in her traditional rituals and functions, thus signifying the strength and the endurance of rural values. So there is continuity and there is the possibility of rebirth. So from the opening pages of this novel, The Madwoman of Jogare, the author is at pains to highlight the harmonious connection between the Shepkalis and the natural world around them. So I will quote some passages. Abu, the father, is, quote, mad about animals, orchids, and he often borrows the name of the latter to label the former. So he calls animals with the name of orchids, and he called orchids with the name of animals, which is interesting because it signifies the interconnectedness between these creatures. One of his muses is a bulbul, which is called Phalaenopsis, so the name of an orchid. And the family jeep is occupied, this is the verb that is used in the text, by a family of birds who have decided to nest in this jeep and therefore cannot be disturbed. The jeep cannot be used. So there is utmost respect. There is an echo, utmost respect for the natural world. So each member of this complex and comprehensive community seems to be endowed with the same dignity, identical rights, and prerogatives. So this man, this Abu, far from being the perfect incarnation of the stereotypical patriarch, is not fiercely proud of his direct progeny. Abu explains that humans are not important. All the trees, all the flowers that his daughter has planted are much more important and something to be proud of, if compared to the children that she might give birth to. So you see that humans are not placed on top of a ladder, but they are just equal among equals. To Abu, the earth is absolutely sacred, and it is the source of everything that is precious. So there is not the Western idea of exploiting nature. And strikingly enough, in this family, also gender roles are rejected. They are not traditionally fixed. For his daughter, marriage is an option, but it's not the most important option. And they also embrace religious pluralism because Abu, the father, is a Muslim. His wife is a Parsi, and their closest friends are Hindus. So there is this idea that everybody can be equal, everybody can have his or her own space, and there is no margin because everybody holds a central position. So, in truth, the only spiritual figure that they all cherish and revere is this madwoman who lives close by in the village of Jogare. Since her dance is intimately associated with the monsoon, with the cyclical time of the season, with fecundity, with the hope of renewal, so tradition is important. And at the beginning of the novel, she announces the heavy rains well before the time that they are typically due. This is also interesting because already in those days, the novel was published in 1998, there were concerns about climate change embedded in the text. So it's a very insightful novel. Let's talk about the other family, the Prutis. They are ruthless destroyers. Of the very extended community, the Shepkalis strive with every possible means to protect. They have a huge car, which is one of their numerous markers of economic success that they exhibit, together with gold chains, mirrored sunglasses. And this car crushes everything, crushes trees, crops that have been planted with love. They are completely disrespectful of the environment. They are self-centered, profit-oriented, and they exhibit this worldview, which is particularly evident in the behavior of one of the youngest of the family, Arun. He smokes near the orchids of Abu, the other character, until the man politely asks him to refrain from killing his plants. Then he blasts and blares loud electronic music, thus destroying the quiet of the environment and frightening also the birds and disrupting the serenity of the valley. And the fact that people can do something not for money strikes him as stupid, as something that is completely irrelevant. So, I mean, he has this idea of development, which is intertwined with the idea of destroying the planet and destroying everything that represents the old traditional and cherished values. So while the Shepkalis uncover connections between all living beings and respect all of them, the Prutis, the other family, aim apparently at cutting ties and fragmenting this invaluable unity in the name of higher revenues, comfort, modernization. Okay, the Western ideas of development, which actually marginalize nature and marginalize all the tribal communities, for example. So they strip the fertile ground of all vegetation and divide, this is their plan, to divide everything into smaller plots, to build 75 identical cottages, which are ready to host affluent tourists, maybe Western tourists, but also rich Indian tourists, who are eager to consume the carefully packaged beauties of the scenery, which are obviously destroyed. So, as Vandana Shiva has pointed out, quote, while gender subordination and patriarchy are the oldest of oppressions, they have taken on new and more violent forms through the project of development, which she also labels maldevelopment. So the idea that you are destroying the planet is also part of this wider agenda. So it is not surprising that in Soleila Abdullah's novel, this perversion of the natural world and its order, and this emblematic subordination of Mother Earth is personally carried out with the help of an ironically green bulldozer. And this is depicted through the imagery of conquest and cannibalism and rape. So these people are actually cannibalizing and destroying the land. And I would like to quote a long passage from the novel, if you can bear with me, but it's extremely insightful. And I will quote now. So the bulldozer is arriving. Earth flew bleeding mud, as the mud was a human being that is bleeding. Earthworms torn in half, writhing mindlessly, as the green thing grunted and lowered its mouth. So it's like a huge destroying mechanical creature, scooping and gulping land. Lightness, power, a belly laugh coming joyously out of his mouth. Arun, who is the character that is destroying the planet, felt he was a god, that he could move the earth. So this sense of superiority compared with other creatures. Every time the machine heaved itself over another mound, every time it reached in and scooped out another mouthful, silt, clay, grass, stone, bits of zeolite, quartz, agate, snail track, excavated, snake pass obliterated, he felt a resonance in his body, an involuntary pleasurable lurch, which was sexual in its intensity. So he really feels a god. He was the conqueror of the world. He spit out roots, lizards, crabs, wildflowers. And after the green thing had been fed, so it's more human than the human beings, he would bestow the benediction of concrete on his road to nowhere. So this is a really, really disturbing description in which what is human is destroyed and what dehumanizes who is human becomes human itself. So in an effort to completely take control of the environment, this person even tries to hire a person to build a map. So he wants to know the land, and the map is obviously a colonialistic image. And maps are what divide the land, destroys even the unity by cutting the plots of land and dividing what is yours, what is mine. And it's also reminiscent of the British rule over the Indian subcontinent. So in a way, in the mind of the writer, so this mapping of the British during the Raj overlaps with the mapping of the urban entrepreneurs of the present. So to wrap it up, the novel ends with the image of an alternative map, which is not a map. It's a subversive map, a drawing of the land, a painting, which is called the Madwoman's Dance, that the daughter of the ecological family, the Shepkali, eventually succeeds in creating for her parents who are dead. And she says that she will create this drawing so that maybe their spirit will manage to come back to the dance. And in the map, she wanted, in theory, originally, to place the Madwoman of Jogare who announced the monsoon. But she realized that she could not paint the Madwoman. So in this slightly utopian conclusion of the Madwoman of Jogare, there is the triumph of a holistic view of the world. There is this possibility of an individual and collective regeneration through nature. The possibility of the margins to go back to the center in this endless cycle of death, rebirth, and movement. So at the end, this young lady, concludes her painting of the dancing Madwoman by not including the Madwoman, but not because she is not there, but because the Madwoman, as she says, is the whole valley. She is the season. And probably, you know, she's everywhere. She's Mother Earth, and she's us, she's you, as well as me. Thank you so much for the attention.